Hello once again, and welcome to another episode of Effing the Ineffable. I'm Lonnie Milbus, and today's episode comes about by request. Turns out this is a topic I'd been avoiding for a while, and I kind of put out there that I, if you have any, as always, if you have anything that you'd like for me to discuss or explore, to go ahead to let me know. And that happened, and this one came up by request as the what my thoughts or my meditations produce on the nature of the knowledge and conversation of a holy guardian angel. Touched on the topic before, but was kind of avoiding it, as I said, as a whole topic, just because it's a very personal experience, and I hate to lead anyone to any expectations or oppose anyone's idea or discourage, or there are a lot of pitfalls that can come from talking too much, but as I want to state up front, since it was requested, I'm very thankful for that. I'll be happy to do this, and just keep in mind that these are my experiences and my opinions. All of this comes from either something I've read or something I've experienced myself, and in no way is requisite to your experience. It may relate, and I hope so. I try to keep it as universal as possible, but understand this is an intensely personal and unique experience for each individual, and the results can vary greatly. In this, I think I'll probably cite Crowley's Book of Lies, Liber 65 from Crowley as well, Living Thelema from David Shoemaker, some biblical quotes, and the Book of Abramelin, things like that. So, this is some of the source material that goes into this. Went in before working the AA system under supervision, and coming to the point that the understanding of this is gained. Okay, so again, it's highly individualized because essentially you have one territory. The experience is the same experience in the sense that the end is the same, mainly because of the paradox that what happens is that it's kind of a realization of the all in one and the one in all. The individual as encompassing the entire universe, and of course the universe encompassing all of the individuals. So that paradox is going to kind of blur some of the dualities. So that's how it's one territory. However, everybody comes with a different set of experiences, so the map they need to get to that territory is going to be different. So it's very unique, and even among AA students, as far as I know, it's like snowflakes. It's unique to the user. So I'll attempt a spiritual interpretation of most of the text, most of the concepts and things like that. That tends to be one thing I look for in recognizing the Holy Guardian Angel and a work that has had inspiration from the knowledge and conversation, even if temporary, is that the spiritual interpretation elevates the mundane interpretation. So I'll try to do that and try to keep it universal, as I said, and include all of the definitions known to me about the Holy Guardian Angel. So we have to, or the knowledge and conversation was a specific request. So first we do have to have some understanding of what the concept of the Holy Guardian Angel is. And kind of the way I've come to know it is it's of the nature of grace. It's like a solution, a pouring forth from a higher higher energies, higher self, higher something that just it pours into the external world. So it kind of unites the two. But grace is a word that I'm really attracted to in defining the holy guardian angel. One of the origins of the phrase comes from a Catholic prayer where they pray, may Lord's holy guardian angel guide and guard me throughout this day, or something like that. I never really got into the prayer, but I saw that on Wikipedia. There's a similar concept in yoga or yog that is being God realized. The God realized saint would be someone that I would say is synonymous with someone who's attained the knowledge and conversation. Also, the Christ consciousness of the infinite way and of some of the more Christian of the Christian religions, or more, I guess, the mystical teachings within Christianity as opposed to the dogmatic religious part of it. But all of these are something within. There are adjustments within, understandings gained, realizations that manifest externally, manifest as a tangible external harmony with that inner alignment, with that inner awakening. So they're evident. I think the way that I was first drawn to it was through works of art, mainly music, that tended to have kind of a spiritual tone to it, or spiritual themes interlaced. And they spoke to me in a way that other things didn't. There was a distinct feeling, and it harmonized with my sense of nature, of truth, of the way that creation actually unfolds, as opposed to pure artifice, or just making something with the hands and laboring to make something. This is different. The works came across as natural, like it just came from the same source as the universe. And I think we all have a sense for recognizing these works. They'll be intensely popular. They tend to gain a lot of ground. And they can be spiritually interpreted. It's almost like they spiritually interpret themselves through us, and it's like they guide us to a spiritual truth that we were perhaps had buried within us, and we were not aware of before encountering them. In my experience, these kind of works, if I can say that I've produced any of them, are very easy to produce. I know it reminds me of Black Sabbath talking about their first album, how they just basically walked into a room and played it. It just came out of them. Like, they didn't think about it, they didn't craft it, didn't go through any of that. It just came out of them. That's kind of what I do with these episodes. The goal is to improve my knowledge and conversation by doing these episodes, by just getting a topic, meditating on it, and talking about it with no takes, it's one take. That's why I say and all these things a lot. But without the labor, without the crafting, I let that which I commune with in my meditation do this through me. And you get me stumbling in the way, in its way once in a while, which is, I'm human. But that's the goal here. So these works, and I'm not saying all of these episodes are works of genius or works of the Holy Guardian Angel. I'm just saying that's what I'm striving for, the same kind of flavor, just as a gift, as a sharing, as trying to leave something good for people on a weekly, or as close as I can to a weekly basis. So these works, they're much greater works of art. They seem to be produced with an ease. It's as if there isn't much thought that goes into them. There maybe not conscious thought, but spiritual thought certainly. They're not merely improvised, because not all improvisation has these qualities, or the haphazard. They're produced just as spontaneously as improvisation, but there's a formality and a harmoniousness to them that matches that of the universe. There's an air of perfect harmony. It tends to be spiritual and material at the same time. They speak to people. So that's the way I see the works that come from Holy Guardian Angel. One thing I've always kind of looked for and been attracted to for that, and works of that, like I said, in music, or what guided me to the path to find that in the first place. One common question that comes up that I'll have to get out of the way here while talking about the nature of Holy Guardian Angel is there's commonly discussed whether it's internal, a part of the self, or external, not self. And that's it's really a miss, I think, to even think about that in terms of Holy Guardian Angel. There's the Crowley line, "I am not I am but an hollow tube to bring down fire from heaven." At the level of Holy Guardian Angel, there's not the duality, as I said before. It's that paradox is going to kind of eliminate that. Again, in the one and the many, I have found thee, or have I found thee? Yea, I have found thee. So at the level of knowledge and conversation, when you're immersed in the knowledge and conversation, all is one, and the one is the many, at least in the essence. So self and not self is kind of a nonsensical concept. At this level, it's more efficacious to classify as either things as either truth or illusion, so that the truth and the illusion both exist, but the illusory is vanquished with the incoming truth. Holy Guardian Angel is not illusion. That would be the greater reality upon which we're missing before knowledge and conversation. A Holy Guardian Angel can be said to be our faculty for recognizing truth, or the operation of truth in our consciousness. It can be our K and C can said to be our attainment for the ability to recognize the universal I, or self, as the truth of the illusory, or the small s self, who perceives itself as a part or separate from the one and all. So those questions of division that are missing the kind of the paradox of the reality, those are the indication, or those are that is what we need to weed out. There is only one consciousness which pervades every thinking mind. There's one consciousness that is life. As the Bhagavad Gita says again, that the God is the sentience of the sentient. So, unlike the material mind, which is the thinking mind, this consciousness is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Knowledge and conversation is our bridge to access this at will. It purifies our individual soul, intellect, and mind, and reaches out into the world through them, using the language of our fallen self to speak to the fallen in others, bringing them home. This happens through the repetition of mystical experience with others that are doing similar things, in building a habit, or the repeated exposure. It kind of teaches us a lesson, and we find our way back easier and easier every time, hopefully. So, kind of like the holy guardian angel itself, I guess wrapping that up is that one way I look at it is using the Hindu pantheon. I guess you can call it a pantheon. In Hinduism, there's one God. There's a formless or a cosmic form, and then there are personal forms. So Krishna has a cosmic, superior, almost formless form. I say almost formless because if there's a discussion of form, there has to be some form. But then Krishna also has, a many-armed form, four-armed form, two-armed form. And these forms are said, in even in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna that appears in form in order that we can attach our senses to him. But being the formless and the God behind everything, Krishna also appears as other gods. Shiva, Kali, any other god is all the one. So they're not different gods. They're different forms of the one, kind of speaking languages to different situations, conditions, people, or what have you. And my kind of idea of holy guardian angel is that is a personal form of, say, the personal form. So an individualized personal form with which we can access the larger formless being. So we have our own personal God, I guess, that nobody else wouldn't make any sense to anyone else, and nobody else can access it. It doesn't do anybody but us any good. But yet for us, it's our link, our key. It's our way in. So it's very easy to understand the concept when presented this way, but it's very difficult for most of us to attain the actual knowledge and conversation or realized consciousness of this. It takes time, patience, and devotion. Again, it's the habit. And so knowledge and conversation is going to be when we get beyond realizing these truths and then fading out of it and going back into our whatever preoccupations of the material world and the illusory Maya, into having it permanently in our consciousness, or at least instantly accessible and kept in our mind most of the time. So, repetition begets habit, and habit informs the mind. Mind makes us who we are. So one sign of success toward your KNC is an absence of desires or fears or hopes in spiritual works. Seeking any material reward, say, I want to get the knowledge and conversation of my holy guardian angel so that it will help me produce works that will make me rich or make me famous. That's an indication that you're completely, that's contraindicated. You're not having much success at that point. Perfection in knowledge and conversation should be a state of non-attachment to that material, to the material results of that work. Attachment only to God, the holy guardian angel, or the highest ideal. We're doing it for its own sake, out of love or whatever way it presents itself to you. So the knowledge and conversation is then kind of, if holy guardian angel is the point we reach in a mystical experience or a transcendental experience, the knowledge and conversation would be bringing that into our normal working consciousness in order to bring it to the world, to serve it, to abide in it. And that kind of, it happens like in my, I feel, oh boy, tap dancing around topics. It's a slow process for some. I feel that I'm not lying if I say that it's a very slow, gradual process for some. You would not be amiss if it's taking a long time to have any results. The AA is a gradual process of building up to this, but really all along in the outer order, you're doing things toward this end. Everything you do is toward this end. So basically, you're beginning the operation when you sign an oath in AA and start doing the work. You are beginning the operation to attain the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel at that point. And then that years or however, it's definitely years of experience is building up your own personal ceremony, your own personal understanding, and getting ready for the official ritual. Now, for Crowley, he tried the Abramelin operation. Also wrote Liber Samec, which in the notes in the beginning says that he used it. He wrote it for someone else, for a student at Cefalù. And in that rite, I think a lot of what the AA, how it works, and how to understand the nature of knowledge and conversation comes about in sections F, G, and GG. If you read the Scholion and you're performing it as suggested, also with a knowledge of astral projection from previous works, aspirant, you're starting as the aspirant in F, the first invocation of spirit, and you remain as the aspirant in the astral, of course, throughout F and FF. In G, the devotee starts to pour forth the enthusiasm, the spiritual manna, his very soul, his or her very soul, as an offering all that one is to the holy guardian angel. And then in GG, the holy guardian angel is the one doing the speaking. So you've transformed from aspirant through devotion to the holy guardian angel in that. And then in typical fashion for returning to the body, if you think about it, after that ends the ritual. You're in your astral body as your holy guardian angel. If one knows how to close properly, you return to your physical body as that, placing yourself inside of that body, locking it together, and then closing the circle. And that act, it kind of the rest of the ritual is kind of a consecration by all the words and gestures of the communion that takes place here at the end, at the closing, when you return your holy guardian angel into your body, into your consciousness, into all that you would define as your person, your humanhood, your soul, everything. You're returning that there so that's a communion of the holy guardian angel, like as it's taking over your life. So that's one habit. If someone's doing Liber Samec however many times a day at their at that juncture, then that's kind of what kind of a powerful ritual for that. Star Sapphire is another one that's recognizing the all-in-one, one and all around the Star Sapphire, and of course the hexagram about which the ritual is a symbol for the uniting of these. So yeah, the knowledge and conversation is built up through these habits, through these devotions, through this constant focus, this inflaming with prayer. And then the nature of the conversation, the knowledge and conversation, I wrote a little something about it in my journal that I'd like to read here if I can. And I defined it on this day, this particular day in question. It said, knowledge and conversation is a lasting conscious awareness of the presence of God within, which causes the personality to surrender to that grace, living life through and as the soul, the individual soul, with the soul, intellect, mind, body, and sense objects as a descending hierarchy of authority over thought and action. It is an abiding in spirit consciousness, in order that every stirring of the personality is of the nature of true will. It's the same as being as crossing the abyss, except that the individual is still perceived and not yet wholly absorbed. So, and it's a turning to a voice. The adept must still turn within to the voice, which, if you have a name for your holy guardian angel, a vision, a physical form that you recognize, you're turning to that whenever you're turning for. It's as if you're seeking an external source, and you might be. It's whatever, internal, external. Again, that's faulty thinking. But you're turning toward forms that are familiar, as opposed to just where I assume with the crossing the abyss seems to suggest that there will be nothing from which to turn. That it just all will be a constant outpouring of the divine, whereas when you have knowledge and conversation attained, knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel, you're still counseling. You're still seeking in moments. So it's recognizing that we're not always there, but at that point of knowledge and conversation, as I said, it's lasting, so that we're not going away for days and days and days without invoking this knowledge and conversation or building on that relationship. Maybe hours at most, I would assume, would be acceptable. So kind of it's kind of like the David Shoemaker mentions the tuning of a radio as being the knowledge and conversation, and I think that's great, because I played with radios. I'm old enough, and when you tried to find a station, especially if you're in a rural area, and you're trying to find that one station you want to listen to, there's a very small margin within that dial where it has to be to get the station in. You go just a little past it in either direction, you hear it comes in clearly, and then you're off of it, and you have to really work to tune in that balance. And in that sense, I like how that matches the with what my experience and what I've read about knowledge and conversation, in that this also presents it's a great metaphor, but it also presents it as one of the more important aspects, is that with knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel, we're not seeking to attain or add anything to ourselves. If we are, it's going to take a while, because we're not recognizing what the essence of it is. It's already there. The holy guardian angel is more our self than our conditioned mind is. Even if it were to be considered a separate entity, in that argument again, it's still more our real self than we are. It's immortally, infinitely with us. It's not going anywhere. When our body is gone, holy guardian angel is still there. And the knowledge and conversation of that is reconnecting with it, the ability to return to this consciousness or presence, at will. It's also the ability to know when we've strayed from it, when we're focusing on things that are counterproductive toward our spiritual ends of permanent abiding in the knowledge and conversation. And correcting it quickly in hours or minutes and not days or weeks, as sometimes is the case in the beginning. So it needs to be a constant awareness, not a fleeting experience like the mystical experience or like that which has been achieved through psychedelics. You should be able to just go to it anytime. And again, it's not added, it's there. It's our true nature uncovered. It's the still small voice. It's the Krishna seated in the heart of man. It's symbolized, I believe, by Hadith. In the heart, again, kind of the same thing. It's the universal, but also the individual self, but as it's defined in our personal terms. So it's the same for everyone, but like I said, we all have our different map to it. There's kind of a comfort or a certainty that becomes the only goal, like, again, a love, a feeling that we get attached to at the expense of the attachment to material results, which Crowley called it a love through which I am no longer I. So it can manifest for each of us differently. For me, the Holy Guardian Angel I knew it by a feeling. And I read, was it as a Buddhist teaching, perhaps it was a yogi, I don't remember, who said that grace that lights you up, essentially, they'd stated that it's 10 finger widths above the navel. And that blew my mind, because that is the feeling that has guided me to this since I began on the path. Even before then, it was the first time I felt it. I have been chasing it ever since. And, through discovering Crowley and going through the 20 some odd years of his works and, doing AA, brought closer and closer to it. And, it's pretty commonly known in almost mystical systems. But for me, it was a feeling. That's my Holy Guardian Angel. Because when I felt that, truth appeared outwardly, harmony appeared outwardly. What I thought was manifesting before me, and the thought wasn't mine. It wasn't manufactured. It was more channeled. It's like this opening myself as an avenue for this grace. That's why I like the word grace so much with it. So again, that would be the Holy Guardian Angel. It's appeared to me in outward form very early on. So whether that's a mental thing or, I don't care. I don't care what it is. It's a feeling, and anything corresponding with that feeling that makes sense and is harmonious with it and that checks out again and again under scrutiny, that's under the definition of a Holy Guardian Angel. And then the knowledge and conversation is, okay, I'm going to actually become this thing. I'm going to let it live through me, and I'm going to live in it. And that's the goal. There are several. Actually, this is where my immersion in the infinite way message comes in handy. I try not to do too much of that on these, because these recordings kind of tend to have a little bit of a thalamic bent. But in that kind of Christian mysticism, there are a lot of quotes from the Bible and the teachings of like the New Testament that go along with that. It's lines such as, I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. He that seeth me, seeth him that sent me. So there was always the stuff with Jesus talking about, I am not me. I'm not, if I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. And the part of Christianity that's most missed, I think, in most of the religion of today is that's what I think the teachings of the New Testament were saying: be like this, not worship this, not lord this over people, but this is how you should become someone who can recognize the false nature of this material suffering and all of this stuff, and transcend it, realize the transcendence of our true nature, so that it kind of goes away. We're not our ego. We like to think we're our ego, and our ego really wants us to think we're our ego, but we're not. The line says, I can do all things, I think this was Paul, I can do all things through Christ, which is given me to do. Not I, but the Father within me, he doeth the works. I can of mine own self do nothing. There was another one in Philippians, establish in thyself that mind which was in Christ Jesus. So it's not the Christ is not a person in these teachings that I'm familiar with. The Christ is the consciousness. It's essentially synonymous with holy guardian angel in the teachings that I study in that school. And that is said that the Christ is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. It's each of our true identity waiting for us to realize it as such. And it says the reason is, in the Bible again, is I am come that ye may have life and have it more abundantly. The place whereon thou stand is holy ground. And then the whole point of it, and the way to get there are from the 2 commandments. I guess Jesus created the Old Testament, had however many 10 commandments, and Jesus had the 2 commandments, which were love thy Lord God with all thy heart, and love thy neighbor as thyself. And that was it. And if you think about that, that's kind of that formula for what all of the things that Crowley was teaching, and that they teach in yoga, and that that we're talking. It's all the one teaching. It's you love that higher, whatever your highest ideal is, God being the word here, whether it's the formless or the personal form like Krishna, and then love your neighbor as yourself, because they're every bit a complete universe and also a part of your universe, as you are. So it's all one. We're all connected. We're all that one consciousness, that one entity. Our knowledge and conversation is our connection to that. It's one step on the way toward complete realization and fullness of realization of that. So I reserve the right to completely change this in the future, but for now, that is my meditative thought as received today about what is the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. And I think if you read the literatures, even the Abramelin work, which really kind of talks a lot about, it's really dualistic approach, but I think if you keep this in mind and do a spiritual interpretation of any of them, this should work. It should hold up. So again, I thank you for suggesting this, and welcome any suggestions for the future, any questions. The Facebook group is Path of Return, and you can leave comments on on here on YouTube, or get in touch with me any other way you know how. I look forward to talking about this, as well as all spiritual content in the future. Thank you for listening.